Welcome to new video. I hope you enjoy. How one shot changed the world forever. In the early 20th century, the world stood on the brink of unprecedented conflict. Nations were entangled in alliances, tensions simmered, and the great powers of Europe were poised for war. This is the story of World War I, a war that changed the course of history forever. In June 1914, the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria-Hungary by Gavrilo Princip in Sarajevo set off a chain reaction that would plunge the world into chaos. This single act of violence ignited a global conflict, dragging nations into a war they were ill-prepared for. Talk about who Gavrilo Princip. Princip Gavrilo, 1894 to 1918, born Obuljij, today Bosnia and Herzegovina, the Bosnian Serb who shot and killed Archduke Franz Ferdinand and set the wheels of World War in motion. Gavrilo Princip was born the fourth of 9 children. 6 died in infancy. His father worked as a postman. Gavrilo, never in robust health, attended high school in Sarajevo and Tuzla, but in 1912 traveled to Belgrade for a more Serb nationalist education. There he became an active propagandist for the greater Serbian cause. He was admitted to Major Tankozic's Black Hand Partisan Academy in 1912, but his poor health rendered him unfit for active duty. 2 years later, Tankozic recruited Princip and 2 others for a plot to assassinate Archduke Franz Ferdinand. Because of his earlier partisan training, Princip was the best shot of the 3 and showed leadership qualities. The assassination was ultimately successful. Police rescued Princip from the mob, many of whom wanted to kill him. Once in custody, Princip and Kabranovic managed to confuse their amateurish interrogators, revealing nothing of the Black Hand organization and sponsorship of the plot. Danilo Ilić's confession nearly brought down their house of cards, but during the trial, in which all the defendants were present, Princip was quietly able to exercise his leadership. The code of silence held. While some of the defendants expressed remorse over their crime, Princip maintained his silence about the Black Hand with a stoic detachment. His final statement in court was short. Back to World War I. The Central Powers, including Germany, Austria-Hungary, the Ottoman Empire, and Bulgaria, faced off against the Allies, France, USSR commonly known as the Soviet Union, today Russia, the United Kingdom, and later Italy and the United States. As war erupted, the Western Front became a grim theater of trench warfare. Soldiers lived in squalid conditions, separated by the deadly expanse of no man's land. In 1916, the Battle of the Somme epitomized the horror of the war. British and French forces launched a massive offensive against the Germans, resulting in one of the bloodiest battles in history, with over 1 million casualties. The seas were no safer. German U-boats prowled the Atlantic, sinking ships with ruthless efficiency. The sinking of the British liner Lusitania in 1915, which killed 1,198 passengers, including 128 Americans, brought the United States closer to joining the conflict. The United States entered into World War I in April 1917, more than 2.5 years after the war began in Europe. While the country was at peace, American banks made huge loans to the Entente powers, which were used mainly to buy munitions, raw materials, and food from across the Atlantic. Although U.S. President Woodrow Wilson made minimal preparations for a land war before 1917, he did authorize a shipbuilding program for the United States Navy. Wilson was narrowly re-elected in 1916 on an anti-war platform. Women working in factories and as nurses. Back home, women stepped into roles they had never before filled. They worked in factories, producing the munitions and supplies that fueled the war effort, and served as nurses, tending to the wounded near the front lines. Their contributions were indispensable. In the Middle East, the Gallipoli campaign was a disastrous attempt by the Allies to secure a sea route to Russia. Despite heavy casualties on both sides, the campaign ended in failure. In 1917, the discovery of the Zimmermann telegram, a secret German proposal to Mexico to join the war against the U.S., along with the sinking of the Lusitania, led the United States to enter the war on the side of the Allies. American troops brought fresh energy and resources, tipping the balance. By 1918, the Allies broke through the Hindenburg Line, and Germany, exhausted and demoralized, began to collapse. On November 11, 1918, the guns fell silent. The Treaty of Versailles, signed in 1919, imposed harsh penalties on Germany, setting the stage for future conflicts. The war had far-reaching impacts. Women, who had proven their worth during the war, began to demand their right, leading to significant social changes. The map of Europe was redrawn, empires crumbled, and new nations emerged. As we remember the Great War, we are reminded of the fragility of peace and the devastating cost of conflict. We honor the bravery of those who fought, the sacrifices made, and the enduring hope for a world where such a tragedy never happens again. The total number of military and civilian casualties in World War I was around 40 million. There were 20 million deaths and 21 million wounded. The total number of deaths includes 9.7 million military personnel and about 10 million civilians. Pray for all died in World War I. Rest and peace. Faithful God, you hear those who call on you in trust and comfort those who mourn. Hear us as we remember those who fell in the roar of battle and died in the mire and clay of the trenches. Hear us as we remember those who survived the battle but returned wounded in mind and body. Hear us as we remember those who. Thank you for watching. If you found this video informative, please like, share, and subscribe for more history stories.